An anonymous phone call and a photo lineup. Tonight, in part 2 of our investigation to the wrongful arrest, we're learning what landed a wrong man in jail for 22 days.
You'll remember last week, we told you officers dropped armed robbery charges on James McGill III, initially accused of robbing an elderly man near downtown Savannah. Wright Gasway has been investigating the arrest and case for weeks now. And Wright, what have you been able to find out?
Mike, according to documents I got in an open records request, the main thing tying McGill to the crime is the fact that the victim ID'd him in a photo lineup. One criminal justice expert doubts this would have ever been enough for a strong conviction. His family was adamant from the start that he never should have even been arrested. The case for James McGill Jr. has long turned from proving his son's innocence to now finding out why and how it happened. He says he already knew his son couldn't have committed the crime.
He's not a morning person. He wouldn't get up in the morning to do anything he didn't have to, let alone rob somebody.
James says his son was called into work at 9:45 that morning from his Georgetown apartment. The robbery happened on East Huntington Lane on December 18th around 10 a.m. The next day, police sent out this release with a red truck possibly tied to the suspect. According to the search warrant, on December 20th, an anonymous caller gave McGill's name to police. The caller told police McGill drove a red truck and nothing more. On December 21st, another man called police. He said he wanted to clear his name because his truck was on the news. Police confirmed his truck, the one they sent out in the release, was not involved in the crime. The red truck was cleared from the crime. Despite the tip about McGill driving a red truck being his only connection to the crime, officers placed his picture in a 6-picture lineup for the victim that same day after clearing the red truck. The 71-year-old man picked out McGill. On December 24th, McGill came to the police department. According to the detective, he did not want to talk without a lawyer and was taken to jail.
I sat in the parking lot of the police station for about an hour and a half, hoping I was going to wake up from this nightmare.
Officers checked his initial alibi that he was working that morning at Carrie Hilliard's. This picture shows him clocking in about 10 minutes after the crime occurred. In departmental emails, though, the detectives threw this out, saying McGill wasn't working at the time of the robbery. There was no mention of the fact that McGill did in fact clock into work a short time later in different clothes than the suspect. Police have said the victim picking out McGill and the anonymous tip gave them probable cause to arrest him. Moving forward, in the case with just the photo ID, would have been difficult, according to Maxine Bryant, a criminal justice and criminology expert and professor at Georgia Southern.
Photo lineups are great starting place. Don't go into the courtroom without additional evidence.
She says factors like victim memory and the trauma they faced make a lineup harder to trust than DNA or eyewitness evidence. In this case, a victim picked out a suspect who was on the other side of town buying gas.
That's a good example of why we cannot rely totally on photo lineups.
The family feels police and the DA's office sat on evidence that cleared McGill. The DA disputes this idea. On January 9th, she says the defense attorney gave her office this receipt showing McGill's purchase at the gas station around the time of the crime. The DA says that's not enough because anyone could use the card.
We only had one snippet. We need all of it together to put it all in context, to verify that, in fact, he could not have been there at the time of the armed robbery.
In emails shown to me, the defense attorney sent more information to prosecutors over the weekend. On the morning of January 15th, the prosecutor sent an email to police telling them about the alibi. That day, officers got video of him at this gas station around the time of the robbery. He was out of jail a little more than 24 hours later.
Once we received it all, we turned it over to the police, and as soon as they verified that, after they investigated, we agreed to release the individual on their own cognizance.
In emails sent among investigators after my initial request for an interview several weeks ago, the investigative division's lieutenant and sergeant said the incident was unfortunate. One even called it a case of victim misidentification. The department would not elaborate on these comments. Once again, police refused to answer my questions. I asked them why they didn't throw out McGill as a suspect when the red truck was cleared from the crime. I also asked them why McGill had to work so hard to prove his innocence. I got nothing other than a reference to their previous statement. As for prosecutors, the DA says 1 week from the time they first got alibi information to McGill's release is a fair and quick time.